name is Jen Jordan. I'm the Resource Management Superintendent for the City of Iowa City. In my previous role for the city, I was a recycling coordinator and helped develop some really cool workshops that we've done now for multiple years that encourage people to take a look at the things that they have in their lives and rather than throwing them away, to use them in a different way. So our new recycling coordinator has done a really good job of getting the word out about the programs and done a great job of updating our website at www.icgov.org/reduce. So you'll find a lot of cool things there. Today in particular, we are going to talk about a couple different things. Making t-shirt yarn out of old t-shirts. So I don't know if you're anything like me in my household with a couple of teenagers and a couple of adults, but we have a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily wear anymore that shouldn't necessarily go to Goodwill or to another secondhand store, but that we can definitely reuse. So we're gonna focus today on making t-shirt yarn. And it's gonna start with, I'll start with some basic equipment that we'll talk about a little bit, and then show you how to make a grungy old t-shirt that cannot be worn anymore, at least should not be worn anymore, into something that's usable to make something like a funky rug or a bag or something like that. So I'm gonna start with equipment. Basically what I have here are just a few different minor things that you can purchase at local craft shops. The main thing is to start with is a really good sharp pair of scissors. So that's essential. The other things that I find super helpful but probably not essential are a cutting mat and a rotary cutter. So if you haven't used these before, I would encourage you to do some research on them. I have a brand, Fiskars, that I just got at a local a local craft shop. But basically these are, it's like a pizza cutter. They allow you to cut through material really quickly and really cleanly, and it's super efficient. The warning is these are super sharp, super duper sharp, so you have to be really careful. That being said, mine's really dull and I haven't changed the blade on it yet, but the blades are reusable too, or rechangeable, so you can get multiple uses out of it. So with that, let's start with a t-shirt, and we are going to turn this grungy old, very worn t-shirt into a ball of yarn, essentially, that you can use to crochet or to weave or do lots of other cool stuff with. Okay, so the way to do this into one, and pardon how kind of grungy this t-shirt actually is. So I'm going to take the t-shirt sideways, and I'm gonna basically use this main chunk of it. So we're gonna start by cutting, so I'll hold it up this way. I'm gonna basically cut across here. And I'm gonna use the rotary cutter just because I've gotten lazy over the years. And I have a nice hole from which to start already. So I'm gonna turn, give myself some room here, and turn my board. Okay, so again, I'm just holding the t-shirt up and cutting right across underneath the armpits here. So again, super sharp, be careful with these. And just run it right across there. Now this part at this point is, you can certainly use more of this t-shirt, but I'm keeping this super simple today. I have lots of these laying around that I do other things with. They're good for rags too, garage rags especially, or cleaning rags. So you don't have to buy those things, again, reduce. So I'm just gonna toss this aside for now because we're not gonna worry about that. So now what I have left is a big loop of material from the bottom portion of my t-shirt, okay? So we are going to take advantage of this loop and make it all into the one. And I'm gonna leave the seam on. You can take it off if that bothers you. What I'm gonna do is hold it up in the cut fashion here. So again, cut across here, and then I'm going to fold it this way. And I'm gonna fold it almost in half. So I'm not gonna fold it all the way up. So you can see I've left just a little bit here on the end, okay? All right, and then I'm gonna line it up as best I can. Just kind of flatten it out. And again, if you wanna cut the seam off, that's totally up to you. In fact, I'm going to because it's nice and lined up here. One habit, I'm harping on this, but one habit I've gotten into with the rotary cutter is as soon as I'm done with the cut, put the safety back on. So if it's laying around, if you have pets or kids around, there's no chance of them getting cut by it. Okay, so now I have, again, this piece here. So we have just the little section here. Now I'm gonna cut strips, but I'm not gonna cut them all the way through. I'm gonna cut just down to this lip here. I'll do a couple and then show you. And so I have, you can see if you're not familiar with the board, there are marks on here for different widths. I'm not particular. One of the cool things about doing upcycling projects is that they're all unique and you don't have to be perfect. So none of the stuff that I've ever made is perfect, and that's part of kind of the coolness of it. So I'm just gonna do roughly, probably 1.5 inches, but again, really roughly. So I'm gonna cut a couple here and then show you what I'm doing. These are probably a little wider than 1.5 inches. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut through just to here. So I haven't cut through all the way there. So you have these kind of hanging pieces. And then I'll finish the rest quick here and then show you how to get it to this part. Straighten her back out here. Now if your rotary cutter is dull like mine, you might have to do some cleanup with the scissors to make sure it's through the proper. All right, I'll cut this section off. Okay, that was just scrap, nothing to do with that. Okay, so now we have, basically, see, you might have some cleanup if your rotary cutter is dull like mine. Okay, so now you have this string, or this t-shirt of, I call it a skeleton when we do classes with the upcycling classes. So basically, you have a skeleton through the middle here, and you have all these loops. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it over my arm here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I've just run down the skeleton section, or what I call the skeleton. And if you pull it down slightly, so now what you're gonna do, so now we're making it into the one, so right now this is all one continuous piece, but it's all chunked together in the middle yet. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start on this first one up here and just cut it at an angle. And then I'm gonna cut each next one. And you can see, it's not perfect, doesn't have to be, doesn't have to even be tidy, it's all gonna get woven into whatever you're making. So you're just always cutting back one. And if it helps you to pull them off each time, so to make sure you know where you're going, that's perfectly fine. Or if you get comfortable with it, you can just start cutting. So you can see this t-shirt now is turning into one giant piece of tea yarn, and you can use it for a ton of different stuff. The Iowa City Public Library, shout out, has some amazing books on upcycling and recycling and crafting with upcycled materials. So once you get comfortable with this, if you're looking for bigger projects than just weaving or even crocheting, I haven't knit with this, I'm not a knitter, but you probably could if you made it small enough. But so you can see that one t-shirt, that one chunk of the t-shirt from here down is now turning into this giant ball of material. One of the cool things that I like about t-shirts too is you can make it, you can leave it like this where it's chunkier, or you can actually pull it into a really funky material. So that's much easier for weaving and crocheting. So if you think back to the fact that I cut it about 1.5 inches wide, that's gonna have an effect on stuff. So we can play with that if you want bigger strips to make chunkier stuff. It is, if you're crocheting, it's easier to use smaller, but you can play with different widths. So another cool thing about upcycling and recycling is if you screw up, it doesn't matter, right? It was gonna maybe go to the landfill anyway. So start over on a different one. So that is how to make tea yarn and how to help keep stuff out of the landfill by upcycling stuff that might not be worn otherwise. So if you don't have a rotary cutter, here is a way that you can make tea yarn from a t-shirt with your regular scissors. Now you do want a sharp scissors, so get it sharpened or get a new set if you have to. But basically it's the same concept of cutting with a rotary cutter, you're just doing it by hand. So we're gonna start, same old t-shirt, different t-shirt, but same old concept. So we're gonna cut across the armpits here. And these are sharp, good scissors here. It's nice to have a flat surface to work on. Again, you can use this, but we're not for this project. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just kind of shake it out to make it even here. And I'm gonna cut the bottom seam off. And this is probably not gonna be the whole thing. I have to go back and clean up here. Yeah, I missed part of it. So again, cool thing about upcycling and using stuff that might end up at the landfill anyway, or would have ended up at the landfill. Doesn't matter if you screw it up. You can make it up on the fly. You can fix it. There are some cool upcycling and repair videos on the website at icgov.org/reduce, so you can check that out. So same concept, we're gonna fold it almost all the way in half, but we're gonna leave that little lip here. And then I'm gonna do this one a little bit thicker, so probably like 2-inch widths. And I'm just gonna start cutting. And I'm not gonna cut all the way through, I'm just gonna cut to the first one there. I'll show you here in just a second when I get a couple done. Oh, that's a thick one. Doesn't matter. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm cutting down, or cutting up to, I'm leaving this section here above the fold. And I'll finish it up here, and then we'll cut it the rest of the way and make some tea yarn. cuts. We'll just do that and call it good. Okay, so again, I've cut and left what I'm calling the skeleton here. And then I'm gonna slide my arm into that section and separate out so we still have the loops here. And then your first cut is gonna be your top right, angled back, and then each one from there. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's chunky, it's a little messy, doesn't matter. You can see these are a little bit wider than the other white one that we did. Oop. And if you feel the need to go back and clean up some of these corners, if you have chunks hanging off, that's totally up to you. I generally don't feel too strongly about it. And there you go. And you can ball it up and you have your yarn you can work with.